Technology. It unlocks wonderful things, new ways of governing your subjects, stabbing and shooting your enemies, and of course, new ways of stabbing and shooting your enemies, boat edition. However, all of these wonderful innovations require monarch points, 30 at a minimum to be exact. Not much we can do about the minimum, but let's stack tech costs so that we don't waste any of those precious admin dip and mill, so we can use those points to their full potential. Admin to core, dip to culture convert, and mill to press the hunt natives and scorch earth buttons. So, disclaimers. There are actually 4 types of tech cost for all tech groups, and the tech cost for the individual types. We'll only be looking at the all type tech cost here. Having idea groups completed also reduces tech cost, but I'm not going to be including it here. Furthermore, all power cost is a modifier which, among other things, translates to tech cost in a 1-to-1 ratio. Each point of all power cost reduction is also going to be reducing your tech cost by 1 point as well. However, all power cost is a different beast entirely, one that I will tackle one day, but today is not that day. Furthermore, you would think that getting a 100% tech cost reduction is the be-all to end-all. However, there is one thing that does add tech cost, being ahead of time, and it's a decent chunk. Hence, the more we add, the more we counter this ahead of time penalty, and as such, I'll attempt to stack it as much as possible. As always, I will conclude this section with the usuals. Iron Man mode supported, achievement compatible, standard setup. Let's go. So, as we get into this game, I'm trying something different today. A popular request has been to put temporary modifiers on a different counter compared to the permanent ones. This is going to involve more work for me, so don't say I don't do things for you. On the topic of things being done, it's only fair that if I'm doing that for you, you do something for me. And in this case, I'm going to ask you a very simple exercise. Press the like button and press the subscribe button. Just those 2 button presses, not too difficult. But with the self-shilling out of the way, let's get into the actual video, now with 2 separate counters for you to enjoy. Our story today actually begins in Korea. We are in Korea so that we can enforce the Hangul alphabet. Once we do that, we'll take some +1 national rest, but we'll get a nice 10% tech cost until the end of the game. We also have the option then to revoke the Hangul alphabet. I don't know why you'd want to do that, just keep it, it's fine, it's 10% tech cost, +1 unrest. Next, head over to Vietnam and form it. The reason formed by Viet is for the -5% tech cost right at the end. There is some -10% in some other countries, however they tend to have some other issues attached to them, and Viet has basically no conditions in terms of getting this -5% tech cost, so go ahead and do that. Then go east and flip Catholic, or Protestant, or whatever you need to do to go ahead and take over the Holy Roman Empire. The reform we're looking for here is this one, for -5% tech cost for all members of the Empire. This is actually the only reform we need out of them, we don't need to do a full revoke here. But I would suggest doing it anyway, since we're going to be switching our religions, and having the full revoke completed means that the HRE won't, evict you. Next, I would love to go over ideas, but there's really not much point here, just take Scientific Revolution inside Innovative Ideas for -10% tech cost. That is the only source of technology cost flat inside your ideas. While you're Catholic as well, this is a great time to pick up the Clergy Condemning the Philosopher event, so go do that. Then, it's time to flip Sunni, and we're doing this for a couple of reasons. First of all, there's a -10% tech cost from just getting 100 legalism. I'm going to include this in the permanent category since it is possible to maintain high legalism throughout your run. Even when it does drop when you die, it's still relatively easy to get it back up to 100. Not trivial of course, but it's possible to basically maintain 100% throughout. And as such, this 10% tech cost is going in the permanent section. This will also give you access to the Dhimmi estate, which when they have 60 happiness and 60 influence will give you another 10% tech cost reduction. Again, pretty permanently as long as you keep them on their side. Next, make sure you have Admin Tech 8 by this point so that you can pass the decision for an Islamic Center of Scholarly Learning, which will give you another 5% tech cost. Since you can do this every time, assuming your ruler is qualified enough, I'm going to assume this is something you can keep permanently. As such, here's another -5% tech cost until the end of the game. Next, time to pick up a couple temporary modifiers. Now that we're Sunni, we need to fire this relatively rare event for 3000 meantime months to fire for a further 10% tech cost reduction, although it is temporary. Another 10% is available from this little chap here, who'll give us not just 10% tech cost, but 10% idea cost as well. Then it's back to formables. It's time to make our way over to Scotland, and get the Education Act, which will give you another 5% tech cost reduction, albeit for 20 years. Then go ahead and form Ireland. Thankfully it's quite close, but Ireland will contain a mission for another 5% tech cost from finding Trinity College. Again, this one is also temporary. Now, time for us to get back into the east, for we need to grab a certain mandate. We need to take the Emperorship of China and pass the China Emperor Decree, fund education centres. Now, to take the mandate, you will need to be an Eastern technology, but once you've taken itself, there's nothing stopping you being Eastern. So if you want to do this earlier while you are in the career area, you're welcome to do that. But bear in mind, this is something you want to be literally balancing while you're having the HRE reform as well. It's theoretically doable, so I'm including this in the permanent modifiers, but yes, it's incredibly difficult. All that done, yet again we're making our way over to Russia to go ahead and get ready to form, well, Russia. Make sure to not abandon your roots, since you should have Vietnamese ideas at this point. And dear God, does Russia have tech cost reduction. They are famously the technological powerhouse. Firstly, there's some temporary stuff from Land of Churches. You will need to flip back to, well, being Orthodox for a couple minutes to pop this mission, but when you do, you can get another minus 10% tech cost. Make sure you get back to Islam for all the previously mentioned modifiers though, as soon as you've done that. Then, after getting that mission, go ahead and westernize. You'll need to hire a natural scientist for another minus 10% tech cost for, again, 25 years temporarily. And that being said, go ahead and become Revolutionary Russian. Take the reform to, well, get the Cult of Reason. And with the Cult of Reason, we'll get a minus 15% tech cost from the decision. Then, we need to pick up 2 women in history. This certain individual requires us to be Russian for minus 5% tech cost, albeit temporarily, and the other one for owning Frankfurt and Nuremberg, which is another minus 5% tech cost. Finally, make a quick pit stop over in Zimbabwe, pick up this monument for a permanent 5% tech cost reduction, as well as this monument here for another minus 10% tech cost permanently. Then, since you do have the Imperial Mandate, you'll be able to grab yourself a tributary. Grab a tributary of a person who is either 4 techs ahead of you, or hint, has an institution that you don't. The institution part is significantly easier to, well, time and set up. This will allow you to pop this event here for a minus 5% tech cost reduction, albeit temporary. Quick intermission, another minus 10% temporary tech cost is also possible if you flip to a Chinese primary culture and quickly pick up the Celestial Empire reform again. This will allow you to pop this event here on screen for minus 10% tech cost. However, then you'll need to flip out of Chinese primary culture and out of the Celestial Empire reform later anyway to get back all the modifiers that we mentioned previously, since you will need to get back to the whole being a revolutionary thing, which is incompatible with being the Chinese Empire, and the Chinese culture I think you can actually keep, to be clear, but basically a lot more painful stuff to go through as well. But hey, 10% tech cost theoretically possible. With all that done, you will finally conclude by making sure your current ruler has the Scholar trait. I'm not sure whether to put this in the temporary or permanent category, however I am going to actually put it in the permanent category. My argument being is that, well, you can run this ruler pretty much forever if you're just lucky enough to just have a Scholar the whole time you're playing this game. Is that incredibly unlikely? Yes, but it's theoretically possible to have it as a permanent modifier. However, I've included it at the end, so if you disagree with this placement, you can just, you know, keep the max rating the same and knock down the permanent rating by 5%, since that is the buff provided by the Scholar trait. But there you go, that is a tech cost reduction you can stack. It's quite an impressive one at that. But that is all I have time for you today. I hope you don't need a demonstration of tech cost. That's, you know, it just gets cheaper. But with all that being said, thank you very much for watching, and I'll hopefully see you next one. Bye.